David, you hear me, right?
Yep. All right, live.
All right. So, hi, David Ashirov. How are you? We are on live.
Very good, David. Good to see you again today.
Great. So maybe we'll do a bit introduction for everyone. Um, so my name is David Drai. I'm the CEO and co-founder. Anodot. Very little bit about Anodot, who we are and what we do. Anodot has actually opened a new category in the market that is called monitoring. And all the idea about Anodot is very simple. The same as you are monitoring IT or application, we claim that you need to monitor your business, you need to monitor your data, a very advanced anomaly detection based monitoring platform so you can monitor all your KPI instead of just looking them into dashboards. David, maybe a bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm David Ashirov. I'm a VP of Data, essentially a person responsible for analytic platform and analytics at Freshly. Freshly is a prepared meals delivered to consumers in the United States business that has been recently acquired by Nestle. And one of my mandates is to scale out business metric monitoring and ability to observe the business from the sensor data perspective, sensors being the KPIs. Create a business story that can be attended to at business time, which is another way of saying real time, only at the time that business needs to react to it, not in factual real time.
David, tell me a little bit about your journey in Freshly. Since you were acquired, right? You were acquired by Nestle.
I think a year ago we got acquired. My journey started 2 years prior to that, so 3 years ago. When I joined Freshly, uh, we didn't have a lot of systems in place to be able to tell if things are going well or not, and if we're going in the generally right direction. And a lot of systems were comprised from people's intuition, strung together to a computer keyboard and acting pretty much on intuition, what's in people's head, which was stellar. And I was very impressed that people can actually do a lot of things that I would rather the computer did. But yes, the state was that generally data was not trusted. There was never, there was not a, we have not yet reached a point where data department analytics as a collective were trusted with information that the organization needed to run the business. So my first steps were to instill that trust. My first steps were to build sufficient amount of technology, connect to all the data that belongs to Freshly or is created on its behalf, and organize it into what people now call data fabric, into a place where you can query every bit and piece of it without having to penetrate through silos or go into weird places. Single place to run any business question. So that took some time.
But can you go deeper, maybe? I mean, you say that you
Sure.
didn't have the. What was the status? What are the data? What was the data stack that you had, and what are the changes that you have done in order to provide a more stable, reliable data and data lake?
Right. We had a number of tools in play that were not necessarily standardized. We had kind of hands-on data ingestion that was not relying on any kind of change data capture system. The storage was an MPP database that was kind of hard to operate. And the BI solution that we had in place wasn't really developed to a point where it could provide a single semantic layer for everything that happens in the business. So a lot of things was started, a lot of technology was there, but it wasn't really utilized to create a data fabric and a data platform. There were just bits and pieces all over the place. So it took a few weeks, a few months to set up ingestion to make sure that 100% of all the data sources that are out there of an interest to me as the head of the data organization were ingested and moved into a single query space, for which we selected a different data warehouse provider, software as a service, that processing was sane and organized, and transient items were hidden from the view, so we didn't pollute the analytic space with transient objects like transient tables that you only need to compute from inputs into outputs, but they're essentially there for no reason. So we cleaned up, and we looked at the outputs, in our case a BI solution, to really make it a single semantic layer that every business metric or every business concept is expressed in. And it also has a data dictionary with a business glossary on the side where people can come in and find anything that's related to the business, material or otherwise, in this one place, one repository where everything is, and you can pull it at your whim. So that, in my mind, constitutes what we now call a data fabric. It doesn't use hyper sophisticated technologies. It uses kind of simple things, but I would say it's genius in its simplicity.
And how
And
is the process of the data fabric?
it took about 3 to 4 months. I would say 80% was probably done in a few months, and then we had to just seek any kind of outstanding things that we forgot that weren't as material or weren't top of our attention. And
Actually,
once we had
it was.
what is
It sounds very fast relative to what at least I saw with companies. Is it because you used a lot of off-the-shelf
yeah.
services?
Yeah, so in my previous places of employment, 95% of my time was dedicated to writing new or supporting existing connectors. So if you need to get data from Google through an API, once in 6 months they will come up with a new release, new API version, and one statement call or one API call will be different, and you would need to give a different parameter. So as an overall, your connector would break, and you would need to assign a developer resource to revisit it. And in the meantime, you'd be down for a day, a month if you're not proactive. It's constantly maintaining this thing that is not making you any different from any other business in the United States. It's not your core expertise. It's not delivering freshly prepared meals to your customers. It's a data connector. So now in this world, you simply go to a change data capture provider that maintains a bunch of connectors that kind of align with your business needs, and use them and save that 95% of time dealing with technology for the sake of dealing with technology.
Got it. Okay. And let's move a little bit forward. Now that let's say you had the data fabric, the data is ready. I assume that cleaning the data, making sure that the data is reliable. How
So
did you do that?
my personal approach to things is at this point you have to secure your a quorum trust in the organization. People at this point are ready to trust you. You just need to make it happen. And what I usually do at this point is creating a lot of descriptive analytics reports. So anybody who needs any kind of a report, any kind of descriptive or a diagnostic, essentially tool hosted on the BI platform, At that point, I spent about a month just dealing with absolutely everybody, building every possible report to make sure that on a descriptive side, that report aligns with previous expectations, other tools that people used, and things check out. And if they do not check out, it's because something in the previous version, not produced by me, was off, was misunderstood, was miscalculated, right? So that's really a place where you can take the first beachhead and have descriptive analytics deployed to absolutely everyone, regardless of their position on a totem pole in the organization. Everybody gets what they need, and really, it's a lot of work to pack into a month, but it's essential. At this point, you will secure a quorum trust of the organization into the data department, data platform, data fabric. At this point, people are completely changing their behavior. Now they want to ask you for assistance and not try to figure it out themselves. They understand that you have the talent on the team that can support them. And you enter a collaborative phase at which you can actually scale your own operations.
Got it. Got it. So if we summarize until now, you fabric. Now you build all the mechanism to have a data that is there in place, in scale. After that, you clean your data by other tools, doing all kind of, I will call it benchmark A/B testings. And then I will go to the most interesting part, in my point of view at least, is the insight. You have a huge amount of data there. Now you ask yourself, okay, how do I provide insight from this huge amount of data? So I assume that you use, like we see in the slide, dashboards like Looker.
Well,
But
really, it's under the hood. It's a lot of it's all or nothing kind of a mentality that you need to adapt here.
What do you mean?
You need to understand your entire business model from the beginning to the end, the entire cycle. How does the organization make a profit, if it makes a profit, or how does it operate really? So you need to map a business model and more granular at some point and map the business processing you have, and you need to understand at which point of the processes or within the processes or within your business model you want to establish a sensor to collect information, right? So your business metrics are those sensors that are measuring something in the middle of that process. Those metrics could be larger aggregates, output metrics that are very hard to change because they have a lot of inputs into them, or there could be a chain of inputs that actually move the needle if you adjust them, if you know areas where you can change the process or improve something. So basically,
David, take 1 minute. David, take 1 minute, please, to check your, because I don't see you. I see your picture. So please, 1 minute. If it succeeds, great. If not, let's move on as is.
Yeah, I turned it off and turned it back on. On my side, it's moving. Very good. So it's a little bit of an investment. It's a little bit of an investigative work. You have to speak to a lot of stakeholders, a lot of people, different departments, massive silos, and understand how they go about their business. And you have to create this formal kind of a document that describes how they go about their business and what they're anticipating to be changing in the near future, where the changes will come. And once you have that, you devise metrics. You measure these gray averages, average number of these people, average number of those things. They kind of give you a basic understanding. They remove the initial uncertainty, but they're not really usable, right? Once you've learned the average, it's good to know. You can't really change an average. You can change a component or contributing factor to it. At this point, you enter a world of ratios and mixes, marketing mix, customer ratios of these customers versus those customers, because some people stay, some people come in, and things constantly change. And at this point, you are diving into a very granular, multi-dimensional family of metrics, of multiple families of metrics, where you break things down in multiple dimensions, and you have suddenly an exponential number of metrics in your hand that are very hard for a person to eyeball and tell if they're good or not, if variations are moving in the right direction generally or not. And you can build predictive models, but they give you, a narrow band where stuff needs to be. It doesn't tell you if, the current value is good or not on the surface of this many things. So if you suddenly find yourself one morning in the middle of a sea of 5 million metrics, suddenly analyzing those metrics and checking them individually becomes this paralysis by analysis situation, where you spend more time analyzing than making decisions, right? And really what you need to do here is to identify things that are abrupt and very material to your business, right? Things that do not slowly deteriorate or slowly improve, because those you can catch on trends in a different setting.
But
you really need to
catch all of that in a manual way. I mean, you are looking into the data. What you are saying so far is that you, with your eyeballs, let's call it like that, into an exponential number of dimensions, and how you track all of that.
So there is a system to this madness. You would try to identify what's material and abrupt. My definition of a business anomaly, not something that slowly drags you down, but something that just changed completely out of unexpected and material change to your business. There's got to be a method of bagging similar things together, things that are affected by seemingly similar things, similar forces. You need to be able to create a bag of those things and examine them as a group and not as individual. You need some sort of an impact analysis to understand how material the impact is, and really create an impact analysis on every member in the bag to kind of bubble up most important things to the top, because those are good candidates for root cause analysis, right? And then this impact analysis could be a unit based. You lose $1 per unit of something, or they could be expressed through related measurements. What does it mean if your conversion rate went down by a unit? How do you put the dollar amount on a conversion rate? It's hard to do it proactively, but at that moment you can recalculate what that unit of conversion rate in marketing cost you in terms of the number of people you got, or the prices you paid for those people, the amount of spend you threw to the market. It's easier to do it in that moment, to actually recalculate the impact as a formula and not a static value. And then at some point you need to perform a root cause detection, or group most impactful anomalies together and kind of rationalize what's causing the thing. And at some point, if there are multiple simultaneous happenings, you need to prioritize. You need to first carve them out into separate groups, and you need to prioritize which one you're going to address by impact, by frequency, volatility, return on investment if you are going to fix it. This is how you address your business emergencies, right? If you have 5 of them, you'll probably want to deal with the biggest one first, or the most annoying one first that constantly reoccurs.
So let me want to do a very small summary for the audience and people that maybe didn't join before. So we talked about the data fabric. Okay, I'm going backward. After that, you build all the data models, all the data infrastructure. And if we'll have time, you can elements or what kind of technology you used. After that, you clean the data. Later on, you build I will call it models, business models, talking to the business data, business analyst, business person, what their needs are. And then you mapped the data to the business analyst to build the right analysis for them. So that you need something or a tool or that will automatically or semi-automatically to tell you actually what is happening. This is
to monitor it
the monitoring, like Anodot is doing, or anomaly detection. It can be internally, it can be with any kind of other solution, but to understand the what is happening with anomaly detection, and for after that to understand the impact. I like to call it, by the way, correlation. The capability, all the KPI that are impacting the specific drop, incident, or spike or event that is happening. And then, like you say, to understand the root cause. With root cause and the correlation, you're able to go deeper in the data to identify exactly the where and the why. So once you know the what, the where, and the why, then you can. And maybe here,
exactly.
if you can share with us, what are the type of actions that from the business you have seen from your experience that at the end of the food chain did to improve the effectiveness of that business?
Well, I don't know if I want to disclose too much about Freshly's, but I can bring you some anecdotes from other areas of employment. At this other place I worked at,
Generally speaking, we can. No problem.
Pakistan blocked, for political reasons, access to Google's domain or URL. So for 2.5 days, we didn't know that our assets do not monetize in Pakistan, and every single metric that could go wrong gone wrong, where Pakistan was a contributing factor. Numbers shifted down 12%, 24%, 27%. And in places where Pakistan was the only dimension, numbers went straight to zero. So Pakistan became completely zeroed out when it's viewed in its totality, right? In a collectively exhaustive manner. So we didn't notice it because there were 5 million alerts at that time that came out of various places, and nobody bothered to look at the place that embodied
How many
Pakistan.
alerts? 5 million
5 million.
alerts?
5 million business metric alerts came out, where Pakistan was a contributing factor because you have conversion rates, you have click-through rates, you have monetization, you have things by this category, that category, things broken down across 3, 4, 5 dimensions, right? There are so many metrics that could get affected because Pakistan is a very large contributor to that business. Not the only contributor, but it's a global business that works in pretty much every country that is not on a sanctioned list. Let's put it this way. And it was very hard to determine what was the root cause. And fixing that problem was very easy because Google exists in many countries. There's a European URL, there's a US URL, and all we have to do is software update release that took about 2 hours to just replace that URL that was to the one that wasn't banned.
But to find the needle,
right? To find the needle and understand that something in the greater world happened that you weren't monitoring. Nobody's monitoring these external political things. Nobody anticipates a political thing affecting your numbers, so you're not actually directly monitoring external factors. Otherwise, there would be internal factors. So there's always something out there that you didn't account for. And you need to know at the speed at which business needs to know it, not at the speed at which you'll get to it at some point when somebody else tells you something is happening. You need to act sooner. You need systems in place. Similar, for example, items happen when you do massive advertising, and your release might have caused a button not to work in your conversion funnel, and 2.5, 3.5 days later, your advertising partners tell you, hey, you've been spending a lot of money on the platform, but your conversion went to zero. So there, you lost a bunch of millions of dollars. And it's very hurtful when somebody else external to your organization tells you that you essentially screwed up.
What is the right way to track it?
And the right way is that millisecond when everything's zeroed out, that millisecond when that button stopped working, immediately correlated to the most recent release. A system should tell you, hey, your second by second conversion rate just went to zero. Your minute by minute conversion rate also went to zero. Your 5 minute by 5 minute conversion rate went to zero, and your hourly conversion rates on that intersection of those dimensions in those specific coordinates on that one tracking code broke. Right? That's what you need to know. You need to know that I pushed a button here and I broke something there. Right? Where 2 days do not count when those do.
The way I see that, it's impossible to do that with our machine learning. We have a question. We need to leave a bit time for questions. So we have a question guessed by who? A name called David. And he's asking, by using off-the-shelf solution like Anodot for anomaly detection, how do you ensure that what the stakeholder in Looker dashboards always matches what Anodot is using? So in other words, how do you make sure that what you see here and what you see there is
the same thing? Right. So what we do is we first compute things inside our data warehouse. We keep it in a repository format, metric 2.0 repository format. Essentially, it's a single table that can measure absolutely anything with any level of dimensional complexity. And as soon as something is computed or not added to that table, that chunk of data is immediately transmitted to Anodot for just-in-time scoring. And if something happens, we get notified by Anodot that the most recent data is faulty or anomalous. That's how we do it, and we use Anodot for anomaly detection here.
For data quality use case. I see.
Right.
I see.
All right. What are the elements in your data fabric? So really just 4 elements. I use specific SaaS providers in the data fabric. It would be Fivetran for change data capture, Snowflake for data warehousing, Looker for BI platform, and we use AWS or Google Cloud for everything else, orchestration of lambdas, orchestration of containers, APIs, web UIs, and so on and so forth. But really, we just think of it as
amazing. In our case, we also have a data fabric. I like the term. And we are using for the data pipe Reverie, by the way, great tool. Saving all the data into the BigQuery data lake. And then what we do, we are drinking our own champagne by monitoring our business with Anodot. Great. So I think that we have few more seconds. So maybe we will take the opportunity for the 30 last to thank you very much, David Ashirov. Your experience is amazing. I talked to you in the past, and we will talk for sure in the future. We are more than happy to host you and to pick your mind on the data, because the data, as we all know, is the future of every business. One for listening that conversation, interesting conversation, and we will be in touch. Thank you very much, David. Bye-bye.